Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. I'm finally getting to a project that I've wanted to do honestly for a couple months. I've wanted to take this Hoya potsii. This is my favorite Hoya. This is absolutely gorgeous. Take it off of this floppy plastic trellis system just because it is quite top heavy. It's growing out of control. Plus I also want to clean it up and place it on a loop trellis system just so it's a little bit more organized and not so chaotic like this. So I'm going to attempt to remove the plastic trellises, kind of unravel all the stems. Plus I do have a few other propagated cuttings from my perlite prop box which I want to try to place in this pot as well, and then take the stems and kind of loop them around this loop trellis system, or this loop trellis that I just fabricated from a metal coat hanger. So let's get into it. Honestly, I don't even know where I'm going to start with this thing, but I have to apologize as well because my voice is a little bit raspy. It's honestly been a revolving sickness in my household here for about the past month. Yeah, it's time to get back to some of these projects that I've wanted to do for a while. I'm going to start by removing this top trellis right here, and then I'm going to kind of follow where all the stems, I guess, wrap up from. I know some of them actually come through the back of the plastic trellis, so I'm gonna have to snip off a few links. And then, yeah, so right here, I got them all strapped down. So I'm just gonna remove all these little plant ties. This thing is so flimsy. It's fallen over a couple times, like it's top heavy, so that's why I wanna get it out of this. Do it up properly, put it on that loop trellis and make it a little bit more presentable because it's just chaotic. Yeah, I'm just gonna start with one stem and find out where it goes. I think this might actually only be one cutting in the bottom. I have propagated, this is a mess. I have propagated this in the past. Okay, I think, okay, so that, yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely cut the top right here just to get this one out. I don't like destroying these trellises, but I'll try and reuse them. I don't like ever throwing anything out when it comes to this kind of stuff. But this is, okay, this is going to be one huge stem. I'm going to try and do my best to keep this all in frame as well. Yeah, this is something I've not been looking forward to for a while, that's for sure, is untangling and unraveling this. But I don't want to damage any of the leaves just by pushing them through. So there is, unfortunately, going to be some damage. I think once I get this unraveled, I'm going to take a tape measure and find out how long these stems are. If I let it drape over the side of my table here, it's definitely going to hit the floor. So I'm guessing at least 3-4 feet. Okay, so this one can unravel there. This one can come over the top now. So I have a stem right here, which I'm going to cut. And then I think I can take this trellis off. All right, ooh, geez, almost destroyed it. Okay, this thing is seriously, look at this. Like, this thing is huge. Okay, now I just have to take this trellis off and take out these support stakes. This is honestly what's been holding it up for the last maybe year or so. Okay, that comes off, and the last little trellis is removed. Okay, now I have to untangle this. This is one cutting, and it's branched out in a number of areas. Looks like 3 separate stems, which I'm going to try to unravel. But I am also going to be taking this plant out of the pot, adding in those other cuttings. I think there's 3 other cuttings, and then eventually it'll be like a massive pot of Hoya potsii. Yeah, this is all from one cutting. Honestly, this Hoya potsii is such a fast grower. I did take other propagations from this plant, and I made an entirely new plant, which is this one right here. If you are looking for a gorgeous Hoya and like a fast growing Hoya, definitely pick up the Hoya potsii. This thing is just, it's out of control. And you can see it's pushing out a bunch of new runners as well. I'm just gonna keep this one here. It really likes that spot. Okay, now, okay, look at this one stem. Huge. This has to be like, I don't know, 5-6 feet at least. It doesn't have any leaves in this part, but that's okay. Huge. Okay, so I'm gonna set this down as delicately as I can without snapping the stem there. Okay, now I'm gonna go get those propagated cuttings because there's definitely room in the pot to add some more cuttings because there's only one cutting which is branched out into this monstrosity. Just checking the bottom of the pot. Looks like maybe a few little roots at the bottom. So I'm gonna see what the root system is like for this one as well and see if it can accommodate those other cuttings. Typically Hoyas, they like to be in smaller pots. They like to be nice and snug. Yeah, they do really well in smaller pots. So I don't think I'm gonna upsize this into anything larger. I wanna keep it in this pot, but I'm just gonna check out the root system here, get those cuttings and see if we can kind of amalgamate them together into a, well, it is already a large, luscious pot, but I just wanna see if I can add them in. Here's my perlite prop box. It's got a number of different plants in there. I got some chia plants, got some other Hoyas, but here are the potsii cuttings. So this large one, it's got some pretty nice roots on there. Got this cutting here as well. Again, it's got some nice roots. I think, oh geez, I have 4. I don't know if I'm going to add all 4 in them. I might actually trade. I might actually put 2 in, and then maybe I'll keep 2 for a plant trade, because is this a potsii? No, that's a different Hoya. So I do have 4 cuttings. I think I'm going to keep 2 in here. I'm going to put this one in the pot, and I'm going to put this one in the pot. Maybe I'll trade those 2 cuttings. If you've never tried a perlite prop box for rooting Hoyas, I highly recommend it. They grow really healthy roots really fast, and they don't have a tough transition when you take them from the perlite prop box and put them in soil, whereas if you have a water propagated cutting and you put it in soil, sometimes the water roots have a little bit more of a difficult time transitioning to soil. I find that's not the case when you use perlite. And look at these roots. Gorgeous. Okay, let's see if I can add them into the pot now. I'm just gonna put all these, oh geez, up here. I'm gonna take my little knife, and I'm just going to gently pry this out of the pot. Hopefully it's not like severely root bound. I find that Hoyas don't typically get root bound like a normal houseplant would. They have very small, typically shallow roots. So this is a large cutting. So with a large cutting, it's obviously gonna have a large root system, but this thing is dry too. Okay, much larger root system than I was anticipating. Okay, maybe I will add a little bit of a larger pot. So here's the roots. This is by far the most roots from a single Hoya cutting that I think I've ever seen. So I'm gonna gently put that down. I'm gonna see if I can find a slightly larger pot. This is probably, I think these are like 4.5-inch pots right now. Got my little tag on it. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find something a little bit better. Okay, I did find a pot that is just slightly larger than the previous one, and I'm going to be continuing to use terracotta. I like to use them for most of my Hoyas. Terracotta is really porous, it's absorbent. If you happen to, well, not even necessarily overwater, but it just helps it dry out faster. I find that Hoyas, they like a good thorough soaking, a good thorough watering, but they don't like to sit in any soggy soil. So that's why I like to use terracotta. And I'm just going to place this into the pot just to kind of size it up. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see it, but there is a finger's width on both sides, which is perfect. And I think I'm going to maybe just add a little bit of soil in the bottom. And because I am using a larger pot, I'm going to be adding 3 cuttings instead of 2. I just kept 1 cutting in the perlite prop box for maybe a trade down the road. I do have some soil down here. Kind of running out of space here. I'm going to add just a little bit into the bottom here. just to give it a, whoops, it literally just fell out the bottom. Okay, I'm going to be using a wood chip. All my soil just fell out the bottom. I'm just going to be using a little wood chip just to cover the drain hole. Normally I use like a rock or something like that, but just so the soil doesn't fall out. And I'm going to, without damaging, just place it like that. So I think because this is such a kind of solid root ball, I'm not going to break it up all that much just because I don't want to send it in too much of a shock. So all I'm going to do is just stick these new cuttings just along the sides. So I'm going to do almost like a triangular type pattern. All the new growth that'll come from the new cuttings will be from the node right here. And as it continues, or as it starts to push out growth, and I can just wrap it along the trellis. And same with this one over here, I can just wrap it up. So now I'm going to just add some soil in, making sure everything is nice and secure. And then I will attempt to kind of weave the stems along the supports here. So I'm definitely going to have to water this just because everything is really loose and flimsy. I want this support trellis to be very stable when I'm putting all my new stems on there. So I'm going to pack that down around. Okay, now this cutting is going to be a little bit harder to get to. Just going to use the pencil to poke soil down around the edges here as well, just so everything, all the air gaps get filled in. Okay, I pushed down the soil pretty good. Like I may have broken a few roots, but that's okay. I want this trellis to be really stable like it is right now. Just going to zoom it out here a little bit. So it's not really floppy anymore, maybe a little bit on this side. Just going to pack that right down. There, so something like that. Okay, don't mind the mess here in a second, but I just want to show how long this stem is. Goes right to the floor. That's got to be at least 5 feet, I would think. I'm going to quickly measure it here roughly. So got the measuring tape here, and if I stretched it out completely, it would almost be at the 5 foot mark. So crazy, absolutely insane. So for this little guy right here, I think I'm just going to just kind of weave it up like that. Have that leaf supporting against the stem. Now this shorter stem, it's like a foot long, is a one branch from this right here. So I'm going to try and support this one here first. Some people like to add like support ties to it, but I think it's large enough that I can just kind of weave it around and it should be okay. Once it gets to the end, I'm going to kind of string it across and then weave it up again this way. I want to get this cutting out of the way just because here's the stem that's literally hanging on the floor. I'm going to get this stem out of the way. It's kind of impeding a little bit, so I now have another propagated portion or stem. Now I'm going to see if I can loop this around. I really don't want to cut it. I want to keep this intact, having a nice full trellis, but I don't know what my options are right now. Did have to make a cut to the long stem. It did branch out in this area right here, so I do have another cutting, which again, I will propagate and probably trade. I didn't want to cut these, but there's no way around getting this large of a stem kind of looped around, and I have to loop it around the same way as the other one, just because if I try and cross it to the other side, the base of the stem is definitely going to snap, so I don't want that. I'm going to have to loop it around in the same way and just keep going like that. This portion of the secondary stem, it did break right there. A little bit of sap was coming through, so unfortunately I'm going to have to cut that one off as well. So again, I have another propagated or another cutting I can propagate. And I'm not too worried about it because it will start to regrow a new stem from that node. Now I'm going to continue, or see if I can continue to weave this around. Hopefully I don't damage any more of the leaves or stems. Okay, now I'm just going to try and fumble through this as best as I can. So I have that up top here. This thing's fallen over already. I honestly don't know what I'm doing here. I'm going to put it on the back and try and weave it around on the back this time. Just so it evens out a little bit. Okay, that I like. I'm gonna loop that up around that leaf. I'm gonna use some of this green plant wire just for the top, just to help support it a little bit more. So I'm just gonna tie these up. Make sure it's snug, and then I'm gonna hide it kind of underneath these leaves. Okay, that will definitely provide some support. Now, actually this is totally doable. I can do this. I'm going to put this through the back side. Okay, now I'm getting all tangled up. Where's this guy going? Make sure I'm not twisting it because I don't want to snap this stem because then I'll be in trouble. Okay, I gotta twist it. It's just like when you get a hose tangled up, you gotta unravel it. I'm gonna support or secure this to the stem right there. Now, actually I'm gonna put this little guy in there too. Where's this one going? Yeah, I'm gonna put this one in there too so that way it stays upright. Don't break the leaf. There, okay, that's decent. Now, I'm gonna try and weave this back through. Again, trying my hardest not to snap any of these leaves off. I'm gonna, almost done. I'm almost done. Get another little plant wire. This is why I've been putting this off for a while. This is a big task. Okay, I'm almost done. I just have this little section left. Now, you know what? I'm actually going to bring it around the back on this side, getting it underneath this set of leaves, if it'll do it. There, that way I can hide the transition. Perfect. Now I'm going to secure these cuttings just on the back side here with some more plant tie. And then it's done. It looks like a little lopsided, but once those new cuttings start to grow, where's the end of it? Once those new cuttings start to grow, then I will weave it in on this side just so it doesn't look so kind of lopsided. But I think I did pretty good considering how large this cutting was. Okay, so I just flipped it around just so you can see what I'm doing here. Here are a few or 3 stems that I'm just using this plant wire just to secure it to the trellis, just something like that. Make sure it's all stable and upright. Okay, so here's the finished product. I think it looks pretty darn good, except for this little loop right here. I'm not a fan of that. See if I can hide that behind there, something like that. That looks a little bit better. So I think it looks much better with the loop trellis. I gotta push this down a little bit more and this cutting's popping out, so I can spray off the leaves here with my handy little spray bottle. Just kind of wet everything down, clean it up, give it a good soaking here. And turn around just to show you the back side here as well. Here are the 2 propagated cuttings that I have at the back. Just spray these leaves off. Something like that. Actually, I might pull this cutting in a little bit more too. Well, I just knocked a leaf off. It was right here, just fell right off. So yeah, when the new cuttings start to grow vines, then I'll loop it around the back here so it fills out in the back as well. So it's got these 2 cuttings right here, but I think it turned out pretty good. It was a fairly difficult job. I wasn't looking forward to that, but I'm glad it's done. I'll put it back in its window. Just gonna give it a little bit more water here and discard of this leaf. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It looks a lot better than it did before. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. I really appreciate all the support you guys give me and this channel. If you wanna watch another houseplant video, click this one right here. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Take care, bye.